Let's take a look at some information and charts on Balancer for Brave New Coin. So Balancer is an AMM DEX protocol that is slightly different than Unisushi or any other swapping protocol. They basically encourage you to create, or in managers to create, some sort of portfolio that will rebalance itself and allows users to capture some arb trades in the process. And instead of paying fees to portfolio managers, you collect the fees from traders who rebalance the portfolio. So interesting idea, interesting concept, different than any other swapping stuff mainly that we have out there. And if you look at some of the pools, just the basic pools, typically you see 50-50 AMM pools. Balancer allows you to do any variation of any asset. So 80-20 in this case, it allows you to have multi-asset, various degrees. So if you believe in DEXs, if you believe in this stuff having a use case long-term, they definitely fit an interesting niche. Definitely on the smaller side of everything, grand scheme, grand scale of things, but very interesting concept and a good option to have, honestly, just to allow people to plug and play, sandbox style, do whatever they want. TVL has fallen off from 3 billion to 1.7, and that's not just Balancer. TVL across the board is down over the past week, obviously, both with price depreciation and people removing liquidity kind of everywhere. Trading volume hit its all-time high a few days ago on Balancer and has come down since then. Transactions have kind of remained flat, and users have remained flat and down. So overall, not a rosy picture for Balancer in the moment. I do like seeing trading volume high. As so long as the DeFi infrastructure can remain highly interconnected and non-siloed, that's the best use case for everybody, because then the traders can get the trades they want. If this goes multi-DEX, that's even better. Or sorry, multi-chain, that's even better. Like some of these DEXs are going. If they're a business, they want to try to incorporate as much users to the platform as they can to be as user-friendly as they can. They recently upgraded to version 2. Definitely looks more user-friendly, looks more like everything else in the AMM realm. Now, I'm not seeing the variable pools that they had on version 1, so I don't know exactly what they've changed, but you can see how crazy this gets with with all of the assets in some of these AMM pools. Just very, very interesting and unique. You can set the fees, you can say who is allowed in, who's allowed out. It's completely adjustable. So very interesting in that regard. If we look at the on-chain metrics for the transaction counts, mirroring the users, just kind of flat. And I don't really expect these governance tokens to necessarily tell you anything meaningful unless there's a governance issue. At this point in time, I think it's too early. I mean, this just got released, basically. It's less than a year old. So that's important to keep in mind as well. The protocol has been around for longer than the token, but it's going to be hard to sort of glean anything useful off the on-chain metrics there. The same thing with NVT and active addresses. NVT is kind of flat. Sorry, active addresses flat, kind of 500 to 600 on any given day. No real big changes there. NVT has continued to decline, which says there's more on-chain activity relative to market cap than there was days or months ago. So that's generally more bullish for price, especially when you see price drop way down, but on-chain activity remain. It typically says we're in an oversold type of situation relative to on-chain activity. But man, we sold off everywhere across the board. Nobody was safe. No asset was safe. ETH, Doge, BTC held up decently relative to alts, which basically all puked 70% from the highs. Balancer, no different. Broke the 200-day moving average. Found support or created support here at this VPVR level around 20. Down from 80 at the all-time high. Balancer maybe more so than some of these other coins arguably tested its support. On some of these other coins, these alts, it looks like they haven't even begun to test the downside. If you say the breakout point was 1820 and it retested that, maybe this is okay, right? We'll know rather quickly. We'll say 10 to 30 days. We should know how bearish we are if we start just pushing lows bleeding, that's the most bearish. You don't want to see a bleed day after day after day. What you want to see is capitulation, arguably what we saw over the past week. Just mega stabs down super quick. Everybody's fearful. Nobody wants to buy the lows. Everybody thinks it's going to zero. That's the type of bottom situation scenario that you want to see. You don't want to see slow bleeds ever on anything. RSI hasn't hit a bullish divergence just yet, so I'd be watching for that. And I'd be watching for any resistance around the 200-day moving average at around 40. And this hasn't even death crossed yet on the 5200. So that's something else to watch out for. How does price look when we get a bearish cross here? But flipping back to just DEX metrics in general, if we look across the board, volumes have been exploding. Most of this is uni, 50% on any given day is uni. Balancers here at maybe a 2.25% or something like that. Total chunk of total volume. You can see it's number 6 here. And if we scroll down to the monthly DEX volume by project, balancer in the gray is down here, and it's a small slice, but it's a growing slice, certainly. And total DEX volume this month broke 100 billion, which is absolute insanity. A lot of that has to do with volatility, obviously, and liquidating a bunch of stuff forcibly through the lending and borrowing, Aave platform, whatever, Aave compound maker. But wow, what a month. Just when you think you see a top in volumes or a stabilization, we just blew everything away. And this just gives you an idea of where we've come from since 2019. Just incredible growth. So it's hard to be bearish DEXs in general when you see growth like this, when you see revenues or potential revenues, even though in the moment we're down 70%. If you trust and believe in DEXs to some degree, then I think you have to be happy with the activity here. Now, if we were seeing no activity in any of these DEXs and price was falling off, let it go to zero, right? But it's hard to be ultra bearish when we're seeing all that on-chain activity. Here's BTC, which had this inverted head and shoulders on technicals, flirted with a breakup, definitely broke up, and then broke down like everything else, right? Everything was poised to sort of outperform BTC in a huge way, and then BTC broke down. Everything else came with it in a bigger degree, and now it's back in this volume profile. This even had an ascending triangle. So this had lots of bullish evidence here for a breakup that just couldn't do it in time, basically. Still no RSI bull div yet, so I'd watch for that. And you definitely don't want to dumpster dive down here to 5K or less sats. You don't want to threaten lows at all. If you want to see the slow bleed situation, it's stuff like this. When I talk about slow bleeds, this is a perfect chart. If you're not going to look at the Zcash USD chart for a slow bleed, look at the BAL ETH pair. Okay, look at this bleed. This bleed since March has been kind of disgusting, right? And it's just day after day after day. And it's basically, it's in bearish price discovery right now against ETH. It's done incredibly poorly since March against ETH. So if you are bearish, this is exactly what you want to see. If you're bullish, you never want to see this in your worst nightmares, okay? This is real bad. Very reminiscent of September, October 2020. So watch out for that. Even though the USD pair potentially may have bottomed here with a decent bounce off 20, the BAL ETH pair looks disgustingly bad. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund on Techemy Capital. You can watch me trade or participate in the directional trading of ETH and BTC. You can see all my trades. You can see AUM. You can see deposits, withdrawals. You can see it all. No mins, no maxes. There are some associated fees with this, partially to help pay for gas fees, which are insane with something like this. But there is just a generic 2 and 20 fee structure here. You can send ETH or USDC, and it goes into a smart contract where I can control the trading of those funds. We also have a DeFi portfolio, which Balancer is in right down here. It's up 26% on the day. This stuff is highly volatile, so keep that in mind. Not for the faint of heart. We are down 30% since April, essentially. And we were looking okay coming into last week. And now we just got our clock cleaned on this DeFi stuff. So again, if you believe in DeFi, if you believe this isn't the top for volume, if you believe this stuff is here to stay, if you believe we're going to see more in the coming months as far as the DeFi renaissance, the DeFi dark ages are over, that sort of thing. It's hard not to be bullish on a chart that looks like that based on volumes and users, you know. Price is price. Maybe these governance tokens won't do so hot. Maybe some of them will, but collectively as a group, they seem to be poised to do rather well. So that's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.